Today is Sunday, May 7, 2017, and today we got to talk about the French election. Now, the results are pretty much in, and unfortunately, the candidate I was rooting for, Miss Marine Le Pen, has been defeated by Emmanuel Macron, the guy with the very old wife. Now, aside from jokes about his wife and stuff like that, I want to be kind of serious in this video. Now, if you don't know too much about the election, I'll give you a brief rundown from what I know about it. Now, this was a presidential election in France, and you had two candidates who made it through to the second round. Because you had the first round, I think it might have been last week or the week before last, where you had a bunch of people that were in the running. And from that pool, you had two people that were selected to go head to head. And that was Emmanuel Macron and Marine Le Pen. Marine Le Pen has been described as far right when you're talking about European media. And some media in the States has described her as that as well. But that's not really accurate. But I'll talk about that in a little bit. And you have Macron, who has been described as more of a centrist in European media and also in stateside media, which is also not really accurate. Now, the reason why I say their titles and what they are as it relates to politics is not really accurate is because, well, I'll rephrase, it's accurate for Europe. When you're talking about European politics, the phrase far right and centrist and left have much different meanings. It's basically like a person that's considered far right could be considered a centrist or even a liberal as far as how we see it. I heard that in France, they said Barack Obama was too conservative. So that gives you an idea about how they label people. And Macron has been described as a centrist, but he's more of a far leftist and a globalist. The George Soroses of the world are involved with the election and they've helped him. It was some documents that had been hacked that had been released. In those documents, it was some stuff about, some offshore money, some tax evasion, some crazy stuff, which Marine Le Pen brought up in a debate. That came out right before the actual election happened. Now, there's been some reports about, the U.S. got involved with hacking or Russia got involved with hacking. I don't know who got involved with it, but at the end of the day, unfortunately, it didn't really help because they said that it was a landslide victory. Now, before I get into my opinion, I just want to talk about some of the reactions I've seen on social media. Now, the craziest thing I've seen is people talking about, Marine Le Pen lost. I'm going to go to France for a vacation, is that and the third. But I'm like, wait a minute. You want to go to France for a vacation? Why would you do that? I mean, you've seen what's going on in many of their cities, Paris, south of France, Nice, et cetera, with all these terror attacks. The Truck of Peace has been doing a world tour all over Europe and especially in France. So unfortunately, people have been hurt. People have been killed. So why would you want to go there? See, Macron, his whole thing is kind of like being the opposite of what Marine Le Pen stands for, which is tough border, tough on Islamization, not wanting to be part of the EU. Macron is the opposite of that. He wants to remain in the EU from what I've heard. Like everything liberal, pretty much he's for. Now, I'm not saying that Marine Le Pen is not for any liberal issues as well, because remember I told you, being labeled as far right in Europe may even make you a liberal or a centrist over here. So she may have some liberal leanings, and I've heard that she's not really that much better than Macron. She's also kind of a globalist and a liberal as well. I'm not sure if that's true or false, but that's just what I hear. But just based upon their campaign and how they ran it, I think Marine Le Pen would have been a better choice because she was against Islamization of France, which is a very real thing. The unfettered flow of so-called migrants from the third world, Saudi Arabia, all the Istans in the world just coming through, especially Paris, and making it into a third world country. I mean, you go to Paris, just like Lauren Southern said, where are the Europeans? If you are a native European place, then why does it resemble West Africa? Why does it resemble Karachi, Pakistan? Why is that? Shouldn't France look like France? Shouldn't Africa look like Africa? Shouldn't Asia look like Asia? America's a different story, and we won't go there, but you understand what I mean. You're talking about a place people are native, it should look pretty much like that. But that's not what's going on, and it wouldn't even really be a problem in my point of view if the people that were coming there to replace people that were there already had a more advanced way of life or were along the same lines people that were already there. People come from these third world countries, invading and not integrating is a problem. People getting hurt. It's all kind of murder. It's all kind of robbery. It's all kind of gun violence, even though you got very strict gun laws in much of Europe. All that's going on right now because of the unfettered flow of so-called migration into France into UK. Now, UK has left the EU. I'm going to talk about that as well. See, Le Pen was talking about leaving the European Union. Now that Macron is in there, I assume he's more of a let's stay, but that may not be something that is that serious like people are saying. Because if Marine Le Pen would have won and France would leave the EU, then that means the EU may be dead, because you already have UK, another big superpower in that region in Europe, which left. France is probably one of the biggest superpowers in the world, has the 7th largest GDP in the entire planet. They're a very big power in the world, and especially in Europe. So if you have some of the anchors of the European Union leave, that would cause the European Union to fracture and eventually collapse. UK is already gone, or pretty much they're going through the process of leaving. France, they may have left if Marine Le Pen was to win. So let's just say France leaves. And who's left? Germany? I mean, Germany, that's going to be a far cry to get them to actually leave. It's like a pie in the sky to get them to actually leave the European Union, but it could happen, because if they have the weight of the whole EU on their shoulders, that may be too much to bear even for Germany. So that could have been a chain reaction that started the European Union to collapse much more rapidly. But there are many more problems with the European Union that can't really be solved by just electing Macron. You can't just say, okay, we got Macron, the EU is safe now. Not quite, because you still got the problem with the influx of so-called migrants. You may have other smaller countries leave the European Union, right? And you got Turkey trying to get into the EU. If Turkey was allowed in, then that would pretty much be the end, right? So at the end of the day, there's a lot of problems in Europe that this election may or may not have solved. But either way, there will still be problems after the election is over. After today, there will still be issues. And hopefully France does not go down the road, which I think they're going, which is like unfettered access to all so-called migrants from the third world, welfare state. Hopefully that does not happen. You know, I was saying on Twitter and Facebook, you know, RIP France, je suis désolé, et cetera, but maybe I'm being dramatic. I'm not quite sure, but just what I see on paper, just from these candidates, it looks like they selected the wrong person. But who am I? I'm just a guy over here in the States giving my 2 cents. So anybody in Europe, anybody in France, especially Paris, give me your point of view. What do you think about the election? Do you think the correct person was chosen? Do you think the incorrect person was chosen? Did you want to see anybody else that was not in the second round actually be there to be selected rather than Marine Le Pen or Emmanuel Macron? Oh, and I have one more thing to talk about, one more thing to ask anybody, especially the feminists. What's going on with the feminists out there butt naked protesting Marine Le Pen? What's going on with that? How do you have feminists protesting her? I don't understand. Is it because she's so-called far right? I thought feminists were all about issues dealing with women. Marine Le Pen is obviously a woman, so why not get behind her? Why be out there butt naked protesting her? Like, what is the purpose? Because what, she's a woman? I don't understand. I thought women were supposed to be protesting for women, not against them. Is it because she wants to reduce the Islamization of France? Shouldn't it be what you want as well? I mean, when you're talking about Islamization, how do they really treat women? When I say Islamization, I don't mean peaceful. I'm talking about people that would stone you to death in the center of a town square for adultery or being raped or something like that. Is that what you want? So I really don't get it. I think people are just out there just doing things just because it's like trendy and fashy. It's fashionable to do it, to protest people that you consider to be far right. You put a label on somebody and all of what you stand for goes out the window. You want to be a feminist, you want to be pro-woman, but yet you treat an actual woman who wants to protect women and the country like she's garbage. So maybe, just maybe, the feminists are all on your side as a woman if you just have the right point of view. And if you don't, well, you're just garbage, and that's it. That's all I had to ask. I just wanted to get your point of view, whether you're a European, a Frenchman, somebody living in France, Paris, south of France, wherever you are, other parts of Europe, in the States, anywhere in the world. Give me your point of view. How do you feel about this election? Do you think that it was monumental? Do you think that it has much greater ramifications just beyond today, that the effects from this election can be felt much farther into the future? Who's going to be the next president in 2022? Is it going to be Marine Le Pen? Is it going to be somebody else who comes out of nowhere? Is it going to be a situation where you have yet another so-called centrist, which is really just a far leftist, an extreme liberal, Is that going to be the pattern we go down? Will we get deeper into Islamization? Will Paris look like Karachi in 10 years or 5 years? Does it look like that now? Whatever your thoughts are, whatever your comments are, let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.